There's a hat box on the top shelf of my attic, powder blue, a little dusty. Inside it is a shallow crowned felt hat with a velvet ribbon, the kind that would have sat tilted just above the left brow, held in place by a single hat pin. My grandmother wore something nearly identical to church every Sunday without fail. Not because she loved hats, though maybe she did, but because not wearing one simply wasn't a conversation anyone was having in 1955. That's the thing about that era that most people miss when they romanticize it or dismiss it. The hat wasn't decoration. It was a complete system of communication. And we lost the whole system so quietly that most of us never even noticed it was gone. In the 1950s, a well-dressed American woman didn't just own a hat. She owned several. Different styles for different occasions, a small pillbox for luncheons and shopping, something wider and more structured for church, a lightweight straw for summer outings, something veiled and precise for when the occasion required it. Department stores displayed hats alongside coordinating outfits as a matter of course. Haute couture designers sent fabric samples to millinery houses so that hats could be made to match. The hat wasn't an afterthought. It was the punctuation at the end of a very carefully constructed sentence. The rules were specific in ways that would seem exhausting today. A textured hat with a smooth dress. A smooth hat with a textured dress. The hat should call attention to the face, not compete with it. The brim should suit the shape of your features. Colors should coordinate with gloves, shoes, and handbag, not match them exactly, but exist in conversation with them. These weren't arbitrary rules invented to confuse people. They were a visual grammar. Once you knew it, getting dressed became a kind of fluency. What's remarkable is how small those hats actually were by the early 50s. The wartime 40s had allowed for more drama, turbans, elaborate constructions of feathers and netting, theatrical shapes that lifted morale during rationing. The new look of 1947 brought everything back to precision. Smaller hats that revealed carefully styled hair, hats that framed the face rather than concealing it. Shell-shaped caps were among the most popular styles in early 50s America. The whole emphasis shifted to the face as the focal point, with the hat acting as a frame. And here's the part one keep thinking about. There's a line from an etiquette guide of that period that noted women should wear hats on city streets, to church, to luncheons, dinners, receptions, dances, weddings, restaurants, theaters, trains, and planes. Basically every public setting short of your own living room. That level of expectation sounds suffocating now, but look at what it actually required. Every time a woman left the house, she made a deliberate decision about how she presented herself to the world. There was intention built into the ritual of getting dressed. The millinery industry in the United States hit its peak influence in the 40s and 50s. Names like Lilly Daché and Mr. John were household names the way certain fashion designers are now. Daché, in particular, understood that a hat could change how a woman held her head, literally change her posture, her bearing, the way she moved through a room. She dressed figures like Marlene Dietrich and Loretta Young, and her philosophy was that the hat was the most powerful tool in a woman's wardrobe because it lived closest to the eyes, closest to expression, closest to identity. Then it ended. Not dramatically. It just quietly dissolved. By the late 1950s, women were already starting to skip the hat for everyday errands. The hairstyles were getting larger. Beehives and bouffants don't coexist easily with a fitted hat. Cars were everywhere, and wearing a structured hat in a low-roofed car is genuinely inconvenient. Women were entering the workforce in larger numbers and found that hats added a layer of effort that didn't always make sense in a practical day. Kennedy went hatless at his inauguration in 1961, and something cultural shifted for men almost overnight. For women, the shift had already been happening, and the social revolutions of the 60s simply completed it. By the end of that decade, Hat wearing had gone from daily expectation to special occasion novelty. What we traded away, though, wasn't just an accessory. It was a practice of deliberateness. When you wear a hat, a real hat, one that requires thought to choose and intention to wear, you can't be casual about the rest of what you're doing. You've made a commitment. The hat announces that you considered yourself worth presenting carefully. That sounds like a small thing. It isn't. There's a body of research in psychology connecting intentional dressing with improved confidence and cognitive performance, what researchers call enclosed cognition. The 1950s woman practicing her hat grammar every morning wasn't wasting time. She was, in a very tangible way, preparing herself. There's a reason that every time fashion editors want to signal a return to femininity and polish, the hat comes back. The quiet luxury trend brought back structured bags and clean lines. Ladylike dressing brought back gloves and full skirts and pearls. The hat keeps flirting with its return at weddings, at the Kentucky Derby, at royal events. It shows up and reminds everyone what it does to a look, what it does to a person. In my attic, that powder blue box sits waiting. The hat inside it is still in perfect shape. Those things were made to last, which is another lesson entirely. I think about my grandmother tilting it over her left brow, checking her reflection for just a moment before walking out the door. She wasn't performing elegance. She was practicing it every single day. That distinction matters more now than it ever did. If this kind of buried Americana speaks to you, the objects and rituals and quiet codes that held a different way of life together, you know where to find more of it. Leave a comment with whatever era or accessory you want to dig into next. There's always more up here.